You ever just want a quiet meal, maybe some hot wings, and instead, you get dragged into a full-blown customer service meltdown that isn't even yours? Yeah, that was my Tuesday. My name's Brandon, and for years, my life was basically a perpetual Florida road trip. I sold IT solutions for a small financial firm, which meant I spent more time in my car than my own bed, crisscrossing Central Florida, burning through gas like it was going out of style. The upside: I became a connoisseur of roadside grub. And man, did I love Publix hot and spicy wings. Best quick lunch a guy could ask for, especially when you're on the go and just need something reliable. One particular Tuesday, I'd rolled up to a Publix, craving those wings something fierce. I was wearing one of my favorite ties that day, a deep burgundy with a subtle pattern. Turns out, it was exactly the kind of tie a Publix manager might wear. And wouldn't you know it, I walked in looking for my wings and walked straight into a Category 5 human hurricane. There she was. Let's call her Karen Asaurus because that's what she signed her credit card receipt apparently. She was already in full roar, a red-faced, vein-popping spectacle, laying into some poor cashier about, well, I don't even remember what. Probably the price of organic kale or something equally trivial. I just wanted my wings and to get out of there. But as I tried to subtly navigate around the chaos, she spotted me. Or rather, she spotted my tie. "Excuse me, sir." Her voice, already at a piercing shriek, ratcheted up another notch. She spun around, pointing a finger so aggressively I half expected it to detach and fly across the store. You're the manager, aren't you? I need to speak to you immediately." "You're not doing your job." I stopped dead, a carton of hot wings suddenly feeling very heavy in my hand. "What?" I blurted out, genuinely bewildered. "I mean, I'm an IT guy, not a grocery store overlord." "Don't play dumb with me," she screeched, advancing. "I said you're not doing your job. You need to fix this. This is your fault." Her eyes were wild, darting around like I was personally responsible for every inconvenience she'd ever faced. I held up my free hand, trying to be calm. "Ma'am, I don't work here. I'm just trying to buy some lunch." She scoffed, a truly contemptuous sound. "Oh, sure you don't. You're wearing the uniform. Don't lie to me. You're just trying to avoid your responsibilities." And then, before I could react, she reached out and poked me in the chest. Not a gentle tap either. A sharp, jabbing poke. That was it. My patience, which was already threadbare from a long morning of driving, snapped. "All right, that's enough," I said, my voice dropping, losing its polite veneer. "Stop touching me. And I said I don't work here. Now leave me alone." She actually looked shocked for a second that I dared to defy her. Then her face contorted into something even uglier. "Oh, you're going to tell me what to do? I will not. This is unacceptable. You are a terrible manager." And with that, she started following me, continuing her tirade, her voice echoing through the aisles. People were definitely staring now. I felt my blood pressure skyrocket. She was pursuing me. In my own head, I could practically hear the Reddit comments. Why didn't you just walk away?" Because she wouldn't let me. This wasn't just a misunderstanding anymore, it was harassment. I spun around, facing her down, my voice booming. "Get away from me. If you don't stop following me right now, I'm calling the police and pressing charges for assault." Suddenly, a new element entered the fray. A guy, clearly Karen's partner, stepped out from behind her. He was bigger than me, probably about 6 feet, and immediately puffed out his chest, glaring. He didn't say anything, just stood there, posturing, like he was ready to back up his banshee girlfriend with a knuckle sandwich. Now, I'm not a fighter, never have been, but I'm also not a doormat. I met his glare, held it, didn't back down an inch. For a long, tense moment, it was just the three of us, frozen in a grocery store aisle, surrounded by the smell of fresh bread and simmering hostility. Thankfully, the actual Publix employees, who had been watching this whole bizarre spectacle unfold with varying degrees of amusement and horror, finally decided to intervene. I saw a few of them chuckling, probably wondering if I was the new guy getting hazed, or just a really convincing method actor. Before either of us could make another move, one of them, an actual manager, stepped forward. Karen and her boyfriend, realizing the actual authority had arrived, finally deflated a little. They muttered something incoherent, shot me one last, venomous glare, and stormed out. I stood there for a beat, just breathing, my heart still hammering. Then I walked over, paid for my wings, which suddenly seemed less appealing, and got the hell out of there. There was a weird, primal satisfaction, though, knowing I hadn't let her walk all over me. Later that day, feeling a mix of lingering annoyance and morbid amusement, I shared the story on a forum. Of course, the internet being the internet, some people jumped in to tell me how I should have been more polite or tried to de-escalate. And yeah, maybe in a perfect world I could have pulled out some Jedi mind tricks. But honestly, Karen started that fire and I just stood my ground until she burned herself out. And for every armchair psychologist, there were 10 more people saying, "Good for you, Op, you finished it." And you know what? That felt pretty damn good. So yeah, just a regular Tuesday for your boy Brandon. Next time, maybe I'll just skip the tie or get a salad.
If you've made it this far, you've clearly got great taste in internet drama. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more wild stories like these. All right, on to the next one.
All right, Redditors, gather round, because I've got a story for you that proves sometimes the universe just really wants you to answer the damn phone. And sometimes you're too young, too broke, and too amused to say no. I'm Austin, 21 at the time, and my big adventure had just begun. I'd finally moved out of my parents' place, sharing an apartment with my buddies Paula and Heather. We were all pretty fresh out of high school, full of that specific brand of early 20s optimism, mixed with an even more specific brand of early 20s laziness. Our new pad was supposed to be our sanctuary, our launchpad into adulthood, it became a call center for a car rental company we didn't own. Yeah, you heard that right. It all started innocently enough. We'd been living there for a couple of weeks when the landline, yes, a landline, it was that long ago, rang. I picked it up, expecting one of our moms or maybe a pizza place. "Abby Autorental, how can I help you?" a gruff voice demanded. I blinked. You've got the wrong number, buddy. This is Austin's apartment." Click. We all laughed it off. Just a wrong number. Happens, right? Then it happened again, and again, and again. Eventually, Paula, bless her determined heart, decided to do some digging. She found it buried deep in the local yellow pages. Remember those? A listing for Abby Autorental with our brand new, never-before-used phone number. Now, a normal, responsible adult would have called the phone company, explained the mix-up, and gotten a new number. But we weren't normal, responsible adults. We were 21, broke, and easily entertained. The idea of getting a new number seemed like a colossal waste of energy when we could just lean into the chaos. Plus, we were already cracking up at the sheer absurdity of it all. So we brainstormed, our first stroke of genius, the answering machine. We recorded a message in our most deadpan voices. "Hello, you've reached Abby Autorental. We are currently out of business. Please hang up and never call again." And oh, did the calls pour in. It was like we'd inadvertently opened a wormhole to an alternate dimension where everyone needed to rent a car from a defunct company. People called from all over the state, asking about minivans, sedans, how much for a week did we have GPS. We'd listen to the messages, howling with laughter, picturing these poor, confused souls desperately trying to rent a Corolla from our dingy living room. It became our nightly entertainment, a bizarre ritual of mistaken identity. Then Jorma moved in. Jorma was always the one who pushed things just a little too far. He was our resident agent of chaos, and he looked at our answering machine prank not as a funny diversion, but as a challenge. One evening, after a particularly spirited game of Mario Kart and a few too many cheap beers, Jorma got this glint in his eye. "You know," he mused, "we should really be taking reservations." Paula and Heather burst out laughing, but I felt a familiar pang of, oh no, Jorma was like that. He'd suggest something utterly ridiculous, and before you knew it, he'd be halfway through executing it. And sure enough, he started picking up the phone sometimes. Instead of the out-of-business message, he'd answer in a gravelly, professional voice, "Abby Autorental, this is Stan. How can I help you?" He'd start taking down details, names, dates, the type of car they wanted. He'd even feign a polite query for their credit card number, just to hold the reservation. We'd be in the background, trying desperately to stifle our giggles, occasionally exchanging terrified glances. I'm pretty sure he never actually did anything with those numbers. He wasn't a criminal, just an idiot, but the sheer audacity of it was breathtaking. Of course, this meant some of the calls weren't so funny anymore. People would call back, angry as hell. "Where's my car?" I booked it for Tuesday. I'd often be the one left to deal with these furious customers, trying to explain, "Sir, I promise you this is just a residential line. There is no Abby Autorental here," while Jorma would be cackling in the kitchen. It was a headache, yeah, but also, I couldn't help but marvel at the sheer, glorious absurdity of our situation. We had become the unwilling, prank-happy gatekeepers of a phantom car rental agency. Eventually, even Jorma got tired of the actual angry customers. Or maybe we just got worried someone would actually show up at our apartment looking for a stan and their rental. So, we had another answering machine powwow. Our new message was a little more accommodating, a little less out of business, and a lot more, "We just want the calls to stop, but also not really." This time, the message instructed callers to hit the star key to bypass the message and reach a representative. It was a psychological trick, really. Most people, upon hearing the automated voice, would just hang up. Those who were determined enough to hit the star key, well, they usually got our voicemail anyway, but at least the initial barrage of "Is this Abby Autorental?" calls slowed to a trickle. It worked surprisingly well. The phantom car rental calls eventually died down almost entirely. We moved on, graduated, got real jobs, became slightly more responsible adults. Life went back to normal, or so I thought. About a year later, I walked into our old apartment, visiting Paula and Heather, and heard the familiar beep 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 of the answering machine. The little red light was blinking. "Austin," Paula called from the kitchen, "you gotta hear this." I pressed play. A sweet, slightly wavering elderly voice filled the room. "Yes, hello, this is Mrs. Henderson. I'm calling about the midsize sedan I reserved for next week through Abby Autorental. I just wanted to confirm pickup time." I pressed the star key like the message said, but I'm not sure if it went through. We all just stared at each other, then burst out laughing. Mrs. Henderson, still out there, still trying to rent a car from us. It was the perfect, ridiculous, full-circle ending to our saga. So yeah, that's the story of how three dumb, hilarious 20-somethings accidentally became the accidental customer service for a non-existent car rental company. It was wild, it was stupid, and honestly, I wouldn't trade those late-night laughter fits for anything. And no, we never did get famous for our prank-turned business. But for a little while, we were Abby Autorental, and it was a hell of a ride. Thanks for letting me share, Reddit. Hope you got a chuckle out of it.
You ever start an innocent plushy war in a Walmart and end up with a stranger's handprint stinging your cheek? No, just me. Well, settle in because this one's a doozy. So for context, my name's Gerald, and to make a little extra money, I teach karate at the local dojo. It turns out that a good chunk of the employees at our town's Walmart are either my current or former students. This means that whenever I go shopping, I'm not just a customer, I'm sensei. It's usually pretty fun, and it's about to become very important. Last Tuesday, I was on a mission with my wife, Sarah, and our 6-year-old daughter, who we call Bug. The mission: acquiring a specific Angry Birds stuffed animal that Bug had decided she couldn't live without. We found the toy aisle, and it was a goldmine. Red birds, yellow birds, big green pigs, the works. Being the mature, responsible father that I am, I picked up a red one, whispered bombs away, and gently tossed it at Bug. Her shriek of laughter was my reward. She grabbed a yellow one and zipped it back at me. Before we knew it, we were in a full-blown, duck-and-cover plushie battle in the middle of aisle 12. That's when my following made their presence known. A rogue black bird flew out from behind a stack of board games, launched by a grinning teenager in a blue vest. "Sorry, sensei," he called out. Then another one sailed over from the next aisle. Soon it was a chaotic, hilarious, store-wide game of catch. My wife, Sarah, just rolled her eyes and laughed, content to be the designated getaway driver with the cart. We were laughing so hard we were crying, making our way through the store when a woman appeared at the end of the aisle. She had a perfectly coiffed helmet of blonde hair and a gaze that could curdle milk. She zeroed in on me, probably because I was wearing a blue fishing shirt, and marched over. "Excuse me, dog food," she said. It wasn't a question, it was a command. I was still catching my breath from laughing. "Oh, sorry, ma'am, I don't work here. I think it's aisle." "Don't lie to me," she snapped, cutting me off. Her eyes flickered down to my blue shirt, then back to my face. "I saw you, goofing off, throwing merchandise. You're the worst kind of employee. Now stop playing your stupid game and push my cart. I have things to do." I was so taken aback I just stared. My daughter, Bug, sensed the shift in tone and immediately scampered over to her mom in the next aisle. I held up my hands. "Look, lady, really, I'm just here with my family. The employees wear vests." Just then, a well-aimed yellow angry bird, thrown by my student over in housewares, sailed perfectly over my shoulder and landed softly in a bin of throw pillows behind the woman. Her head whipped around, her face, already pinched with annoyance, turned a deep shade of crimson. "Are you throwing things at me now? I want your manager. This is unacceptable." That's when Sarah peeked around the corner and gave me the look, the one that says, "Abort mission, Gerald, disengage, now." "You know what, you're right, my apologies," I said, deciding it wasn't worth the fight. I grabbed Sarah's hand and we started heading for the checkouts, leaving the woman fuming in the aisle. I figured that was the end of it. I was wrong. We were in line, just a few people from the cashier, when we heard the squeak of angry cart wheels approaching at high speed. It was her, but before she could open her mouth, one last, fateful angry bird came flying through the air. It was a Hail Mary from my student in the pharmacy section, clearly meant for me as a final goodbye, but his aim was off. It sailed high and then came down, landing with a soft plop right in the woman's cart, directly on top of a bag of organic kale. That's what broke her. She saw the bird, looked at me, and her face twisted into a mask of pure rage. She stormed the remaining 10 feet between us, and before I could even process what was happening, her hand flew up. What? The sound echoed in the sudden silence of the checkout area. The game was over. Everyone froze. My cheek was on fire. "I have had it with your disrespect," she shrieked. "You will be fired for this. You assaulted me." Right on cue, the store manager, a lanky 20-something named Kevin, who was one of my brown belts, came rushing over. "What's going on here? Sensei, are you okay?" The woman puffed out her chest, smelling victory. "Aha, so you are his manager. This man, your employee," she spat the word, "has been harassing me, throwing things at me and refusing to do his job. I want him fired and arrested for assault." Kevin looked at me, at my red cheek, at the fishing logo on my blue shirt, and then down at his own official Walmart vest. A slow understanding dawned on his face. He turned to the woman with a calm, professional voice. "Ma'am, I am the manager here. Gerald is a customer just like you. He doesn't work here." The woman's face faltered for a second before she doubled down. "He's lying. You're covering for him. I was just slapped by him." Kevin raised an eyebrow. "He slapped you?" "No," she screeched, realizing her mistake. I slapped him, but he deserved it. He threw a toy at me." Kevin's calm demeanor never broke. "Ma'am, you just admitted to assaulting another customer in my store. We have security cameras covering every single one of these checkout lanes. I'd be more than happy to review the footage with the police officers I'm about to call. Unless, of course, you prefer to pay for your kale and leave immediately." The color drained from her face. She looked at me, at Kevin, at the dozen other customers and employees staring at her. Without another word, she abandoned her cart and practically fled the store. Kevin gave me a sympathetic look. "You want an ice pack for that, Sensei?" I just rubbed my cheek and laughed. "Nah, I'm good, but I think our next class should be on controlling the trajectory of flying objects."
Roll right into the next one. It's waiting for you.